In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Happy Theological Construct Day. This is the one day of the church year that is dedicated not to a season or an event or an occasion, but to a construct of the church, namely the Trinity. It's a mystery, as we all know, which is part of the beauty of the Trinity. You can't begin to understand it, just like we can't understand God. It offers preachers numerous opportunities to commit heresy today, as Christopher often says, and he'll update me after the sermon today on just how many heresies I'm about to commit with you in the next few minutes. I would offer today that the Trinity is about relationship between what we would call Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, what we would call Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer. Put in whatever title or adjective suits you at this moment in your spiritual life best, but it's how they relate to one another. And that is an incredible affirmation for us, because it says that God is in relationship with you and I. We need that relationship. Our world is a place in which we need a relationship with the knowledge that created us, with the Spirit that redeems us and forgives us and enlightens us, and with the Spirit we heard in John's Gospel today, which is with us, that sustains and encourages and comforts and guides us in our lives today. I'd like to read to you a very short passage from one of my favorite authors, which is Henry Nouwen. And think for a moment of the world we live in right now. Think for a moment. Hardly a day passes in our lives without our experience of inner or outer fears, anxieties, apprehensions, and preoccupations. These dark powers have pervaded every part of our world to such a degree we can never fully escape them. Still, it is possible not to bring these powers, not to build our dwelling places among them, but to choose rather the house of love as our home. This choice is made not just once and for all by living a spiritual life, praying at all times, and thus breathing God's breath. Through a spiritual life, we gradually move from the house of fear to the house of love. He wrote these words 40 years ago, and yet how true they are to us today. Moving from a house of fear to a house of love. He goes on to write, I have never seen the house of love more beautifully expressed than in the icon of the Holy Trinity, painted by Andrew Rublev in 1425 in memory of the great Russian saint Sergius. I brought in today for us to look at two representations of this magnificent icon of the Holy Trinity. Probably the most famous icon of the Trinity in existence. The three visitors to Abraham in the desert in the Old Testament, the three angels, are depicted here as members of the Holy Trinity. And some people say it's one of the first mentions of the concept of the Trinity in the Bible. We could talk a lot about this particular icon. I'm not going to do that today. You've heard me probably preach on it or given a class about this icon. If you haven't, I'm happy to talk to you more about it. But it does have a few quick things to mention before I get to my main point, which is about a minute away. We have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit represented here. We have images in the background that tell us who they are. The colors of what they're wearing tell us who they are. The Son is pointing to the chalice, the common cup, which he is going to bear, which represents our humanity and the fact that we are mortal, and that he's going to give his life for us. The Father is blessing that plan, and the Holy Spirit is reminding us through this small symbol at the bottom, which is an empty tomb, reminding us that even though Christ drinks this cup, death is not forever. Resurrection will happen. God's plan will unfold. Reminds all of us that as we come together as a community and drink this cup, we participate in that mystery that says life goes on beyond this world. That's the theology in a nutshell of the Holy Trinity icon, and I won't get into how a cross is made and how symbolically we are the fourth person sitting at this table looking in, part of the genius of Rublev's iconography. What I would like to say, and here's the main point, what I would like to say is notice the difference between this icon, which is a mass-produced icon. It's a real icon. It's a holy image. That's an icon. It's mass-produced. This icon is hand-painted, meticulously, over many months by an icon writer in Sablino, Russia, that I had the honor of knowing for a number of years. She's done exquisite work. She prays as she paints. She paints in the traditional style, which is putting on the paints in a certain order, with certain prayers. And sometimes you have to fast when you put on certain paints, and sometimes you don't. And there's a whole process that we can't, at least I can't begin to imagine having to learn and go through to create this. And while they're both icons, I would say this is a more authentic icon. As you come up to communion today, look at the faces and see how exquisite the detail is. My friends, as we enter into a deeper relationship with God, we're called not to be mass-produced Christians. We're called to be unique, special, handcrafted by our Creator Christians, each uniquely loved, made, formed, encouraged, forgiven, lifted up in our lives. We are called into that kind of very real relationship. And so as we celebrate a theological construct today, let it remind us that constructs may be just theological, but they also can remind us of a very real and authentic person that's inside each of us, that's in relationship with a God, the God who made us, the God who forgives us and redeems us, the God who sustains us each and every day when we seek that God out, and the God that one day will take us by the hand and lead each of us home.